Hello, I'm David Conway, and I'm one of the authors of Are Virtual Insight Visits an Effective Way of Engaging Learners? I'm also a careers consultant at the Open University, and I've got a research interest in technology-enhanced learning. The other authors of this project are Christine Gardner and Janet Hughes, and they're both with the School of Computing and Communications at the Open University. Now, the benefits of insight visits and field trips to sites such as Bletchley Park are widely accepted. Benefits include reinforcing and expanding upon taught learning, ability to relate theory to practice, encouragement of collaboration, and enhancement of student motivation. These benefits subsequently lead to enhanced student experience, improved student outcomes, and they may also widen participation with environments such as museums. A challenge for the Open University in delivering insight visits and field trips is that it has over 170,000 students who are studying at distance across the world, who are often combining study with other life priorities such as employment. This means traditional visits to off-site locations are not always viable for the university or its student population. Advances in technology, such as improved connectivity, now mean it's possible to deliver live virtual insight visits which expose participants to real-world environments. This means it may now be possible for interactive virtual visits to provide many of the same benefits that are possible from participation in traditional off-site campus visits and trips. The aim of the project was to investigate if a live interactive visit to Bletchley Park Museum was an effective way of enhancing computing communication student experience. In this video, you'll see clips from the broadcast at Bletchley Park Museum, and I'm going to talk to some of the people who were involved in the project. Chris, you're one of the subject matter experts, together with Janet Hughes, on the webcast. You're also one of the presenters as well. What was it like being a presenter? Were you excited by it?
Yes, it was a really good opportunity to work with the education department at Bletchley Park. At the OU, we're situated just a few miles away from Bletchley Park, so it was a great opportunity to go there and have a demonstration of the Enigma machine. Many of our modules cover decryption and encryption, and the Enigma machine is a really good example of one of an early encryption machines.
So widgets were used during the webcast to interact with the audience. Now, the widgets were on-screen multiple choice questions and polls. What was it like using the widgets, and how did it work during the webcast?
Yeah, there were several interactive parts of the broadcast. So the first one was we had a map where everybody could put their location on the map, and it was great to see that we had participants from all over the UK. And then at several points during the broadcast, we asked some multiple choice questions, and that was really good, for example, to reinforce some of the maths aspects that are really important for computing and IT students. So, for example, we would ask the students if we had 3 rotors on the Enigma machine, and each had 26 different positions. How many total combinations were there on that Enigma machine? So it was really great to see the students interacting there, and most of them got the right answers, which is also really good.
That's great. So is there anything that could have been done differently or could be improved perhaps in future?
So our original plan was to move around the Bletchley Park site more. Unfortunately, we had to just have one very small section in the display hut, but it would have been good to have had several different options on where we could go on the visit. And the other thing is we had lots of chat going on in the chat box, and it's very difficult to keep track of that. So although you and Janet were there responding to the chat, it would have been great to have actually been able to pick out some of those questions on the day and respond to them in real time.
You find that it's been really interesting to actually see a practical demonstration of some of the things you would.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, David.
I think it's fair to say that you are an Enigma machine expert. Over the years, how many demonstrations do you think you've done?
That's a really difficult question to answer because it will number in the hundreds. I've done them in all sorts of places all around the country, in museums, other museums, in universities, mostly in schools, and also in a well-known holiday camp brand.
To my knowledge, you've never done a virtual visit like this before. As the main point of contact between Bletchley Park and the Open University, how do you feel it went?
I think it went really well. I mean, yeah, I've done online demonstrations before. I've done things via webcam, but nothing with this kind of production value and interactivity. So it was really interesting to do, and it was kind of fitting with my vision of where I wanted things to move forward in terms of digital online Enigma demonstrations. But we didn't have the technology or know-how available at the time. So I think it went really well as a trial. It was fantastic.
Brilliant. Obviously, I was involved in it, and it's great to get your perspective on this. What do you think could have gone better? Is there anything could have been improved possibly?
That's a really difficult question. I think I would really like to see. I would like to take part in something like that as a point of view of a student, so I can see what the experience is like from that angle. Obviously, I've seen the resultant video that we recorded, but it's not quite the same as experiencing it in the field, as it were, experiencing it live. So I'd really like to go back and experience that, just to see if there's anything from that point of view. Because from my point of view, presenting, I thought it was just an amazing experience, and the only thing that I think could be improved would be just things being a bit smoother in terms of the setup that come from having more experience, rather than necessarily anything major that we needed to fix.
Do you think that the virtual visit concept could work with other museums and education providers? And if so, what do you think the advantages of it are over traditional visits?
Definitely, yes. Even before this pandemic situation started up, this was where we as a learning team were trying to push things. We wanted to use digital technologies and the internet to engage with broader demographics and a much broader range of audiences. And when the pandemic started, it sort of threw all that into very stark relief. It became essential as opposed to something that was really nice to have. I think all museums should be looking towards sharing their experiences and their objects in this way, because it helps to expand those audiences. It allows more people to come through your doors virtually. Now, I know that there are a lot of museum leaders out there who are concerned about developing these digital technologies too far, with the worry that it would stop people from visiting in person. And I don't think that is a concern, actually. If anything, it allows more people to start interacting with museums, and then encourages them to come through the doors in person. You're never, ever going to do anything digitally, remotely, that's going to wipe out the need and the want to come and see these things for yourself in person. But it can help you to interact with things in a different way. So it augments the experience as opposed to replaces the experience of actually coming in person.
Okay, we have time for one more question then. It's an interesting one here. I'm not sure if you know the answer to this, but what was the most important message to be decrypted?
Trevor, you're a senior research fellow for the Knowledge Media Institute at the Open University, and you're also the director of STEAM, which is the Centre for Research of Pedagogy in STEM. Can you explain to the audience what the Knowledge Media Institute is?
The Knowledge Media Institute is a research institute. We're a group of people from different backgrounds: computer science, cognitive science, artificial intelligence, these kinds of areas, doing research in the areas of knowledge and media, so the ways in which technology is used, for example, to support teaching and learning. The centre was set up at the Open University specifically to do research in these areas, and to try and feed that research through into supporting the activities of the university itself, so either through our teaching and learning or through the platforms and infrastructure that we use to deliver support for our students.
So, having been involved in this project myself, I know it didn't go smoothly throughout, and there was a few technical challenges. I think, namely, one was the connectivity at Bletchley for when we're actually doing the recording. So, just from your perspective, Trevor, and reflecting on the whole of the broadcast, what could have been improved? What went well, do you feel?
I think the overall, the broadcast, we were very, very pleased with the end result. So those that have watched the recording of it, you know, I don't think it could have gone a lot better in terms of the end result, but the technology behind it is quite involved, and the nature of when we do these broadcasts from other organizations, the opportunity to work with that organization to do all the technical tests and run throughs and stuff beforehand is always kind of pressured. Everybody's time is pressured, and in the context of the COVID work, you know, getting into Bletchley Park to run some of the rehearsals and things that we had, there was always time pressures on that. So that did add a little bit of a stress in this particular case. We did have some issues with using, you know, the internet connection that's supported through the site there. But, you know, I must say that the organization of Bletchley Park was so good and so helpful. But yeah, these things come with a little bit of pressure, a little bit of anxiety. We usually do have a few backup options, as we've sort of discussed probably with you at various points in time. The nature of the work that we do involves quite a lot of teamwork. So it is a multidisciplinary team working together, and the presenters in this case, both from Bletchley Park and the OU, were just so professional and so good at preparing and organizing. It meant that we could focus on the technical stuff, and they could focus on the presentation stuff and bring the two together, as you saw, hopefully in a way that ended with a good result.
So the original plan of this project was to have an audience-led virtual visit, which went across different locations of the Bletchley Park Museum. Unfortunately, though, COVID happened, and that prevented that from happening. Do you think in the future that concept would work?
I do, very much so. I mean, I think the nature of doing a live broadcast is that it should be interactive. Otherwise, you could do it as a pre-recorded piece. So when we are doing these kinds of activities, making those decisions that the audience makes an integral part of the thing is really, really important. So it's involving people in decisions that matter, that draws people in, that makes them a participant, makes them part of the broadcast. And I think that approach that we set up to do in this session, we had sort of there were some limitations around the flexibility that we had access to the sites and things like that. Nonetheless, the ways in which we brought things in were really intended to try and make it as interactive as possible. And certainly, yeah, more and more of that audience-led approach is something that we would certainly try to do in all of these live events. Yeah.
Finally, Trevor, do you think that small universities and colleges perhaps could utilise this concept? And if so, what advice would you give them?
Absolutely. I'm certain, lots of places are trying this, not just universities, further education places, colleges, schools even. And there's no reason why we can't try this. The key thing I would recommend is to try to keep it simple and build up through experience. So, planning exactly what it is that's most important to you when you're preparing these things is the key thing, and use that as a way to focus. So when we were doing this with the Open University, the thing that was most important to us was to have interaction, to make it as interactive and as engaging as possible. So that's the thing that we focused on. All the other techniques and tools and stuff that we've brought in, we've built that up over time. So there's no reason why other places can't try it. Try and rehearse as much as possible. That is the key thing for a lot of these kind of sessions. Making sure not just the people presenting, but the technical people behind the cameras, they need to know exactly where everyone is, what's happening, how the order is going to run. So being together, just spending time together, rehearsing, checking, because when the thing is live, it makes it so much more engaging and so much better prepared when everyone's comfortable working together. So that would be the recommendation. Keep it simple, work together, and rehearse just as much as possible.
So I'd just like to say thank you very much to Tom for the demonstration today. Thank you very much to Bletchley Park for allowing us to film today, and good luck with your studies. Thank you very much.
Right, let's get to the results. So the webcast had 164 participants, and 100 of those were students. 42% of students resided in locations that were in the lowest 50% of the index of multiple deprivation. 64% of participants lived over 2 hours in travelling time from Bletchley Park. Students were surveyed using a Likert scale. 100% of students said they would find it difficult to visit Bletchley Park in person. However, 100% also said they would like to visit Bletchley Park in future, and 100% said they would participate in a future live virtual visit that was relevant to them. Qualitative feedback overall was highly complimentary, but it did also indicate that there were some technical difficulties. These technical difficulties were resolved quickly by the chat box moderators during the live webcast. Some students also did say they would like more opportunities to interact with on-screen guests and presenters. It remains unclear if the webcast itself actually enhanced student experience. The results do indicate that incorporation of more interaction between students, guests and presenters may enhance future events.
I had technical issues and I wish I could watch it again because there were some parts I couldn't follow.
It helped put a physical view on the theory studied, cryptography.
Reduce participation numbers but increase sessions. Most user comments were ignored by the hosts.
I would even join if they were not relevant to my area of study, but were relevant to the subject of computing and IT.
Results indicate that virtual visits are an excellent way of exposing students to real-world environments they typically wouldn't have access to. They may also be a good way of promoting external environments such as museums and even be a useful recruitment tool. But, of course, more research is required. If you have any questions, my email is now on screen. Thanks for watching.